Hey, what's up guys? A little something different on the channel today. I was lucky enough to get invited to a closed beta recording test for a game called Exoborne, where I got to play with a bunch of creators and against a bunch of Exoborne developers. Hashtag ad, hashtag sponsored, let's get all that out of the way and fully disclosed. I did get to duo for about 3 hours in Exoborne with Handler, who is a prominent FPS YouTuber, maybe some of you watch him, and I'm going to tell you guys my experience with that. Going into the Exoborne playtest, I had absolutely no idea what this game was. I've never heard about it, I've never seen gameplay, I've never seen any news regarding it. My business email manager brought this deal to me, and I figured I'll play the playtest and decide whether or not I want to do the sponsored video. So then I asked Handler if he had any experience, because he was my duo, and he said he was also going in blind. So this truly was a blind run, which I actually really preferred because it allowed me to get a true, fresh first impression. Upon first start of Exoborne, it became immediately obvious to me that this game was an extraction shooter. So I said, oh man, what's going to happen? Am I going to get shot once and I'm going to bleed out? Well, no. As you'll see in the gameplay, this game actually plays really different. As you'll see in the background gameplay, one of the biggest focus of Exoborne is exo rigs. Think of it like the class you play. I'm playing a class that when I hit Q, I get extra armor in gunfights, and Handler's playing a class that focuses really heavily on mobility. He has this big jump he can charge up, and he can even glide in midair. But don't get the wrong impression about the movement of this game. Again, as you watch the background gameplay, you get a better idea of it. But it is very deliberate, very placed movement. There is a stamina bar you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, so nothing can be spammed, nothing is crazy. But again, one thing that really stood out to me in comparison to other extraction shooters that I've played is this game is a very mobile extraction shooter. You can cover a ton of ground in gameplay, including massive verticality drops. One area of a map that we played on during this play session dropped more than 500 meters straight down off a cliff into a valley that you could actually still play in. Those of you with very keen eyes will notice in the background gameplay there does appear to be dynamic weather in this game. You would be correct. There are tornadoes, there's rain, and it does affect your movement in the game as well. For instance, if you try to glide with your parachute while a tornado is near, that's not going to work. In fact, Handler died to a tornado while trying to escape. So he was sucked in an F5 tornado and then immediately killed. During the play session, the weather was definitely something we had to pay attention to, not only because we didn't want to die to it, but because for visibility, sometimes storms would happen and lightning strikes would come down and we didn't want to be in that, so we had to move. A tornado would come by, we had to rotate around that, or just a big rainstorm came in, which reduced visibility, so we had to position around that as well. But one thing that I really appreciated as a non-extraction shooter player is the fact that you could reposition and it didn't take 50 years. Which is one thing that I actually really like about Exoborne. The mobility focus is a huge thing in this game. Now, as Handler and I got more of a hang on the game during this play session, we started figuring out different plays we could make, different things we could use in our gameplay. One thing we caught on to a little bit too late that was extremely effective was this radar scanner tool. Think of it like a beam that came down from the sky that essentially scanned an area and gave you wall hacks for a short period of time. This is obviously incredibly strong for an extraction shooter. However, because there is a large AI focus in this game, there are a bunch of camps you can fight with loot and very dangerous enemies that can kill you. The AI scanner did help us just move around the map and cover points of interest. From a personal perspective, as someone that really doesn't touch extraction shooters, I typically view them as games that take a super long time to get a hang of, and by the end of the 3-hour play session, I felt as though I had a really good grasp on what was going on. So if you're not a fan of extraction shooters, this game could be one you could jump into and learn fairly quickly. The learning curve isn't as brutal as other games such as Escape from Tarkov. To some people, that might be unappealing. To me, as I would consider myself to be a very casual extraction shooter player if I'm going to play one, that's very appreciated. Now, that isn't to say Exoborne is a casual extraction shooter. This game is definitely very sweaty when you want it to be. The developers in this play session provided us with a bunch of different super high-level tech in the game, super high-level items that we could test and mess around with. This included fully upgraded kit such as a 50 cal sniper, all the different grenade types and tactical gear. As a result of this, the first few games we played were against fully kitted opponents, and then as we died, which there was a lot of, we got to see the natural regression from what a super kitted, high-level game would feel like, all the way down to bare-bones loadouts. One thing that's super cool about this game is the attachment system is, again, simplified but still very impactful compared to other extraction shooters that are on the market. There are different, basically, rarities of attachments ranging from green all the way up to gold. Some weapons have more attachments than others, and of course, the better the attachment, the more expensive it is. One of my favorite attachments to use was early on with the 50 cal sniper. There was a thermal scope, which of course worked against weather types. That was extremely useful. The other high-level gear, I already mentioned the scanner, but there's also airstrikes you could call in, as well as these tactical abilities that just changed the way you could play your exosuit. For instance, there was a stealth melee exosuit in the game as well. This was particularly useful for ambushing. We got ambushed quite a lot by it, and one of the things that was super effective is combining the stealth melee exosuit with this catalyst that regenerated some of your stamina on melee hit. So that directly synergizes with that exosuit's playstyle. The one that I tried to use in my gameplay with my exosuit was one that allowed me to regenerate against stamina if I got a critical hit on an opponent. I'm obviously trying to hit those headshots in gunfights, so my theory was if I just shoot you in the face a bunch, I'm going to have way more stamina, way more mobility, and ultimately win the fight. Shifting gears to talk about the gunplay and just some other aspects about Exoborne. I liked the gunplay. The gunplay definitely has a good bit of recoil to it, particularly if your weapon is not fully upgraded. One thing that I did notice during gameplay is just the visibility sometimes. When shooting somebody, the hit markers were quite large, and sometimes I couldn't see what I was hitting. However, this is, again, a beta. This is a closed beta play session. They can easily fix that sort of thing. Given this is an extraction shooter, some people are probably wondering, well, okay, what does extraction actually look and feel like? Good question. So, extraction in this game can actually be extremely nerve-wracking, and you can die down to the last second of you trying to leave that server. So, first of all, when you're actually moving towards an extraction point, the AI are a big threat. You're going to want to move very carefully, and of course, you're going to want to avoid any weather and look out for players. Once you get to the extraction point, you need to call down this aircraft if it isn't already on the ground. If it is on the ground, you can walk inside of it and then you can initiate extraction. Now, it's worth noting, you have to wait there for, I think, about 30 or 40 seconds before this aircraft takes off. And even when it starts to take off, the side doors of the aircraft don't immediately shut, giving you safety. This means you have to worry about getting ambushed at the extraction point pretty much constantly. If a team is good and they sort of play their cards right, I could see a situation where, let's say they don't want to extract, but they would just want to extraction camp. They can probably just throw a grenade in those side doors right when you're just about to leave and ruin your day. I will say, though, during the gameplay, Handler and I both felt this enhanced the excitement of extracting because we felt we had to clear the area very thoroughly and still pay a lot of attention before we wanted to extract. So overall, first impressions of Exoborne during this closed playtest, I was pleasantly surprised. Again, I went into it completely blind, and I left the play session feeling as though there's another game on the horizon that I can pay attention to and actually play. Now, if you did think this was a cool game and you're interested, definitely wishlist it on Steam. The links will be all in the description, everything like that. And there's an upcoming closed test starting on September 16th. Again, thank you to Exoborne for inviting me to this playtest and sponsoring the video. Be sure to let me know what you guys think. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'm just going to leave you guys with some raw gameplay.
Flying away with you? Realized he was up here, damn. Dropping down. Nice. Yeah, I can hear that. Was he on a rooftop? Nice.